Good morning, another live. And as Instagram goes and does what it has to do to find the people and let people online know that I'm live, that we're live, I'll give it a minute, take a swig of water before we get into today's live session, which is recruiting in 2022. All right. Hello, happy dog, and Serene. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining, Alex. Today we're talking about recruiting in 2022. If you are a small business owner, if you are a manager, if you're an operator, you know that recruiting has gotten tougher, and the things that used to work, well, they're not working as well. And so I wanted to touch on, I've got 7 points today, broad lines, more about how you approach recruiting rather than tactics that are going to help you in your recruiting. I'm Steve Karagulis, I'm the Chief Pathfinder, and what I do is I'm actually a human resource consultant. Part of what I do on a daily basis is recruit for brands and companies, and these are tactics, or these are approaches that I encourage or that I apply when I'm doing recruiting to help find the candidates. I work in a market where we've been experiencing a labor shortage from way before the pandemic. There were McDonald's and Starbucks and a lot of QSRs, a lot of retail stores closing because they just couldn't find staff. And that continues to this day. And I'll give you an example. I work with a company, we do national recruiting. When I post an ad here in Quebec, I'll get 1 or 2 applicants. If we post it in another province, they can get 20 to 30 a day. And so there is a labor shortage. And so it's not just in the number of applicants that you get, but it's also going to be in the quality of applicants you get. So let's get right into it. 7 points, 7 things that you can do to improve your recruiting in 2022. And the first one is, and I've posted videos about this in the past, and I talk about this a lot when I'm consulting with companies, and that is to approach your recruiting as marketing. Recruiting is marketing. So in marketing, we're trying to attract clients to buy your products. In recruiting, what we're trying to do is attract candidates to work for you. So the goal is the same. We're trying to attract the talent. We're trying to attract people into your business. Good morning, Rishad. And so what you need to do with your recruiting is think of how you're going to build value, how you're going to attract people, how you're going to put your ads in places where your target market already is. So if you're trying to attract a really young generation, well, then you're probably not best, really young worker, you're probably not best to put your ads on Facebook, right? The average age of a Facebook user is older, and so why would you put an ad on Facebook? You're probably putting your money in the wrong place. If you're trying to attract a younger demographic, you might want to think about things like Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, and other areas where that target market is. So you have to think about building value. You have to think about targeting your market. You have to think about, how am I going to attract the person that I want to come and work for me? So identify your target market and then build your recruiting to attract that target market. Design your ads so that they're not just help wanted. Once upon a time, you can just say help wanted and you would get a bunch of applicants. There's help wanted ads everywhere. So you're going to need to be a little bit more creative when you design your ads. And that means using, if you're on a medium that is going to be visual, you want to use more appealing visuals, right? Nicer pictures, nicer fonts, nicer colors. Same thing with the text that you're going to use in defining your jobs. If you're just putting it as, here's what we need, well, that's great, but that doesn't necessarily speak to the candidate. You're going to want to write it, what does the candidate get out of this? What's in it for them? And you might say, well, I'm giving them a job. Yes, well, but they can get a job pretty much everywhere these days. So you want to define your recruiting ads in a way that makes it where they can understand the value, where they can understand why they should come work for you. Point number 2, and this is a sticky topic, you want to post about your compensation. California recently passed a law where companies have to post about compensation. And there was a lot of people have thoughts about this. And on the candidate side, absolutely you want to know about the compensation being offered. But on the employer side, a lot of employers don't want to post about compensation. Well, here's my thing. If the thought of you posting about your compensation makes you cringe, well, then you're going to need to review your compensation. And it's going to be one of two things almost in all cases. The first thing is either, and the most obvious one is either, maybe your compensation isn't that competitive. So you don't want to post it because you're worried that if you did, well, your competitors would know that you're paying less and the applicants wouldn't be as attracted to the job. Well, if that's the case, you need to revisit your compensation. You need to make your job attractive. Now, the rebuttal to that often is small businesses will say, yeah, but I can't compete with the big companies. Well, you don't have to compete on a dollar for dollar basis. Again, going back to point number one about marketing, you need to build value. So what's the value of coming to work for you? Compensation should be competitive. But if you're not the leader of the market, your compensation or the dollars paid per hour or per year, they don't necessarily need to lead. But what else are you giving? And that's where what you lack in resources, you can make up in resourcefulness. And so consider that as the first thing if you're cringing about putting your compensation in your job ads. The second one is a lot of employers cringe because the compensation that they're paying their existing employees may not be fair versus what they're offering new employees or what they're offering within existing employees. That again leads to, you might need to revisit that. You might need to reconsider how you are paying people and fix that. Is pay equity an issue? Fix it. Are you paying some people more because they're favored for reasons that aren't objective? Fix it. Are you paying people for reasons that are objective? Well, then stand behind it. Have the confidence as a leader to say, you know, Jackie's getting paid more because she produces more. That's why she gets more. And if you want to get paid as much as Jackie, well, you need to produce like Jackie does. And that's the two ways that you should revisit your compensation. Getting back to looking at how to post about compensation and making sure it is competitive. Well, in California, the reality is if everybody posts about compensation, everybody will be able to know what their competition is paying, and then they can make their compensation competitive. It's a win-win, actually. Win for the candidate, win for the employer. What you can do if you're in a market where most people aren't posting about compensation is you can apply to work at other companies. Go through the application process. Find out, what are they paying? What are they offering? How many weeks vacation? How many days off? All of those things. And then you know where you stand in comparison with your competitors. And your competitors in the labor market are not just your direct competitors in your industry. They're your competitors for the talent pool. And so if you're hiring at entry level, that means, for example, a kid coming out of high school, well, that means any job that they can go get at entry level is your competition. And so don't just think about it if you're in food service as I need to compete with other food service. I need to compete with McDonald's and Starbucks and so on. No, you need to also compete with Walmart, Amazon, and so on and so forth, other retail locations, other places where somebody with little job skill can come in and get a job. You need to be competitive in that sense. If you're hiring with a specific talent or specific skill in mind, well, where else can that person with that skill or talent or experience go get a job? That's your competition in the labor market, and those are the people you want to have competitive wages and benefits against. Point number 3, I call this the quick and the dead. The quick and the dead. If you're not quick in the recruiting game today, you're dead. And that means you need to respond quickly to job ads. Today, somebody, when they're posting or they're applying, hey, Mary, nice to see you. When somebody is applying for a job, the reality is there's not just one job. I recently spoke with a representative from Indeed, and they told me that job postings and spend on job postings has gone up into the triple digits. All right, so it's gone up over 100%. That many more job postings, that much more spend going on into those job ads. So that means when somebody applies on a site like Indeed, or they're in application mode, it's no longer where they've got to get up and print CVs and then go from one place to the next, or manually fill out. They can go on Indeed and apply. And so they're applying to several at the same time, especially when we're looking at entry-level positions. So if for you're saying, well, I posted today, I'll look at it again in a week or two, and then I'll get back to people. By the time you get back, most will have already found a job. And those who haven't, well, you're going to have to ask yourself why they haven't. And so the quick and the dead means you need to respond quickly. And I'm talking about hours, not days. If an applicant applies this morning, why not be able to respond by this evening? And the response doesn't have to be you're interviewing them. It can be a phone screen. It can be an email, right? You can simply send them an email or a message if we're looking at Indeed, for example, where you can send a message, say, thanks for applying. Can you answer these simple questions just to speed up the process? People expect it to be quick and easy, so make it quick and easy. Being quick and easy doesn't mean not being thorough though, all right? So you need to develop a recruiting efficiency. Be thorough in your reviews, but be quick. Which brings it to the next one. Some people say, well, how can I be quick and thorough? They kind of don't go together. Well, they don't go together for a lot of small business operators, a lot of managers, because they kind of get to recruiting as an afterthought. They post an ad and then they do everything else and then let me go quick look at recruiting. It doesn't work that way. You need to make it a priority. That's point number 4. Make your recruiting a priority. Devote time daily, every day. And you can do this at the end of your day, dedicate an hour and a half, where you're going to go through all your applicants, you're going to respond to them, you're going to do your phone screens, and you're going to schedule your interviews. Make it a priority so that you've got time allotted and dedicated every day to getting back to your applicants. If you're posting because you need somebody or you're going to need somebody, we'll make it a priority so you get rid of that task as soon as possible. But if you don't dedicate the time, you don't make it a priority, it's going to be there and it's going to continue to nag and it's going to continue to demand time for a longer time. So make it a priority and that'll allow you to work and respond quickly and be thorough. Point number 5, keep changing it up. Keep changing it up. If you're posting and you're not getting the candidates that you're looking for, or you're just not getting the applications that you hope you would get, it means something's not working. So you need to change it up. And that can mean a number of things. It can mean your budget's not right. It could mean your ads aren't appealing, or it could mean that your ads aren't in the right places. You need to evaluate that to determine which one it is and then make the adjustments. What I mean by that is, set your budget for your ads. But maybe taking that budget and spreading it across 30 days is not going to get you the spend that you need. So instead of doing that, why not reduce your spend on some days and then top it up on other days? For example, you might say, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm going to reduce my daily sponsored budget for my ads to $10. And this applies, by the way, if you're posting ads on social media or you're posting on a lot of the job boards. So I'm going to reduce it on these days. But as we get into the weekends, I'm going to fill it up. I'm going to really increase my spend, my sponsored budget, in order for my ads to show up right up on top when people are doing a lot of that job seeking. So play around with your ads, play around with where they're placed, play around with what they're saying. Because if you're not getting the applications, it's not working. And what is the definition of insanity? It's doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So if you're not getting the results you want from your recruiting, change it. And change it constantly until you fill the roles and you find the talent that you're looking for. Number 6, have your whole process set up. Have your whole process set up. A lot of people will start the recruiting, they'll get candidates in, and then they don't have interviews prepared. So they're kind of asking questions or they're just having kind of random discussions that don't properly evaluate the candidates. Then once they find a candidate, they're not really prepared on the offer process, which can take longer and delay, and then they can lose some good people that they really wanted, but they didn't have their offer ready. And then when the person comes on, they don't have the onboarding ready. So the person is let down. And I remember a statistic from long ago that said the average person will decide in their first 3 days of work whether or not they're staying on a roll. So if you're bringing people on and you don't have the onboarding prepared, well, you may have brought someone on just to have them already decide that, yeah, I'm not staying here long term. And so have the whole process set up means Prepare your interview guides, prepare your reference checks, get all that ready so that when you bring someone in for an interview, you have a set of questions, a set of discussion topics that you're going to go through to properly evaluate the candidate. Then when you find your candidate, have that offer process already set up. Do you have an email that you're going to send them? Do you know how much you're going to offer? Do you know what else is coming in? Is there insurance paper? Are there insurance papers ready? So all of that, have that ready to go. And this is something you'll often see in large companies. They have that all set up. Small business owners, small operators often don't. So they're kind of scrambling once they find it. And it doesn't necessarily give the best of feelings to the applicants. So have your onboarding process ready as well. So once that person comes on, you've now gone through the interview, you've selected them, you've given them the offer. Don't let them down by bringing them in and saying, okay, wait here. I'm gonna show you what to do when I have a moment. That doesn't work, all right? And people want to feel important. So make sure you've got that onboarding process ready. Do you have to provide a uniform? Have a brand new uniform ready to give them. Do you need to give them a store tour? Do they have to shadow somebody? Have that all scheduled and planned out. And if necessary, meet with the parties who are going to be working with this new employee so that they know exactly what they need to do and what your expectations are. Number 7, the final point of recruiting in 2022. Recruiting often equals treating symptoms. It's often like cold medication. It doesn't treat the cold, it treats the symptoms so you feel better. So recruiting, if you find yourself having to recruit and you're going back, you're saying, okay, we need to recruit again. We need to find another person. We need to find another person. Well, there's a problem here. And so while the recruiting, do these things, it's going to help you. You're going to need to also take some time and evaluate, why are we constantly recruiting? Why are we constantly losing people? Or why do we constantly need new staff? Now, if you're a company that's growing and you need new people to handle the volume, hey, that's a good problem. That's clear. Keep doing that. But if you can't find people, so you need to keep recruiting, like I said, change it up, reevaluate. Or if you keep losing people, that's an even bigger problem because you've spent all this money to get them in. You're spending this money to train them and onboard them. And then they leave, so your money is walking out that door, maybe going to a competitor. You need to reevaluate what's going on. Why are people coming in and leaving? Or why are we losing people? And there's a number of things you can do. You can do exit interviews. That's standard. That's been done for a long time. You can do stay interviews. What about the people who are staying? Why are they staying? Figure out what makes people stay. And if once you figure that out, you can determine, all right, we need to do more of that to make sure that the people that we're keeping are more of them. We've got more of those people and we do more of that, of course, if why they're staying are for the right reasons. So if you keep having to recruit, think of it as you are treating symptoms of another problem and you need to evaluate to figure out what that problem is and how you're going to solve that issue. And so recruiting in 2022 is a bigger challenge. Labor shortages, we hear about it. We hear about quiet quitting. We hear about the great resignation. Well, I've talked about that in other ones. But in the end, if you are going through that, solving that problem is going to take longer. Labor shortages with the baby boomers retiring are going to be here for a while. So you need to get better at recruiting if you want to keep your staff, if you want to keep your bench strength nice and strong. And so the 7 things that you can do to improve your recruiting in 2022 is remember that number 1, recruiting is marketing. Build value through your recruiting. You're trying to attract candidates to your business just as you would be trying to attract customers to your business. So approach your recruiting like it's marketing. Number 2, post about compensation. What do people get paid? What are the benefits? What vacation do they get? How many sick days? So on and so forth. Post about it. And like I said, if you cringe thinking about posting about your compensation, maybe it's because you need to reevaluate your compensation. Is it competitive? Is it fair? And is it fair not just for your new employees? Is it fair for your existing employees? And if it's not, maybe you've got some adjusting to do before you post about your compensation. But compensation and posting about it will make you think about that. And it'll also make you make sure that you're competitive. How do you do that? You do some market research. You either go on sites like Glassdoor or you do the good old roll up your sleeves and you apply at some of your competitors. find out, what are they offering? And can I offer the same? And again, as always, whatever you lack in resources, you can make up in resourcefulness. So if you're a small company fighting against a big company for talent, well, then you don't necessarily need to pay more, but there are things that you can offer that those big guys can't. And it's for you to be creative and figure that out and offer that to your candidates. Number 3, the quick and the dead. The quick and the dead. You need to be quick. You need to be efficient. You can't let candidates just sit around, and you can't have hiring processes that last weeks and weeks. It's got to be quick. How do you do that? Well, that brings it to number 4. Make your recruiting a priority. Devote time daily. I dedicate, I do recruiting for companies, and I dedicate a certain number of hours per day for each of those mandates. There is no reason why, as an operator, as a manager, you're not doing the same. If you have a need, make it a priority to address the need so you could wipe it off the things that you need to do. Make it a priority. Keep changing it up. If you're recruiting and it's an ongoing process and it's not working, it's either not bringing enough applicants or it's not bringing the applicants that you're looking for, change it up. Something's not working. And so evaluate what you're doing and consider the placement of your ads, the wording of your ads, the visuals of your ads, and of course, like I mentioned, the job itself, whether or not it is something that is attractive to people. Remember, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So if you just keep posting the same ad and you're putting money to do that, but it's not bringing you the candidates you want, that's insanity. Number 6, have the whole process set up. So you've got your recruiting going and you're looking to bring people in, but have you thought about how you're going to interview them? What are the important questions? How are you going to evaluate them? Are you going to use situational or conditional questioning? And what kind of responses are you looking for in terms of evaluating your candidates? Beyond the interview process, what about the offer process? Have you got that ready? Do you know how their insurance is going to be taken care of? Do you know what they're going to need for their first day? Do you know how you're going to send out this offer and how you're going to make them feel important when you do? And then finally, what about the onboarding? When they come on and they start working, who's going to train them? Who's going to show them around? Who's going to explain everything? And who's going to guide them? Make them feel like those first days, right? Because we've all started new jobs, you're kind of lost. Help them feel at home, and you have a higher likelihood of keeping them around and lowering your overall turnover and improving their loyalty and productivity. And number 7, remember that recruiting is like treating symptoms of a cold. If you constantly have to go back and recruit and find people, you may have other issues. Again, if your business is growing and you just need to add on to address the growing volume, that's great. That's not a problem. But if you constantly have to find new staff because you're losing staff, or you constantly have to go back and recruit because you just can't find the right people, recruiting might not be the issue. You may have issues within your organization that you need to address and put that as a priority as well and evaluate. And so that is recruiting in 2022. Those are 7 ways to approach recruiting in order to improve your effectiveness. Like I said, I do recruiting for companies. I'm an HR consultant, and we work in a really tight labor market here. And if you're not creative and you're not active and you're not present and quick and you're not doing these things, you're generally seeing places that are short-staffed. And so I've had a lot of success doing these. I wanted to share them. I think you'll have a lot of success doing them as well. Thanks for joining. This was Leadership Pathfinder. This was our live session talk. We'll be back again next week at 10 a.m. for another live session. Thanks a lot, everybody, and have a great day.